Hi, I'm Dr. Mark Lewinter, licensed acupuncturist at Metro Acupuncture in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, acupuncture partner, and mom, Dr. Angela Lewinter. Mom, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Mark?
Doing great. You excited about today's topic?
I think it's gonna be a lively topic today.
It is going to be a lively topic. As of recording this, Valentine's Day is just a little over a week away. And of course, wedding season is around the corner. And I wanted to talk about how acupuncture can be helpful for brides and grooms to be in getting ready for a wedding. A wedding is a day that many people think about, dream about for months, years, sometimes decades, and they imagine all sorts of things, certain moments, beautiful pictures, but they may not think about how their body is going to feel. They may not think that they might have a headache or some back pain or a little GI disturbance. So what we wanted to do is just list some very common things that can happen with the stress of a wedding. And I've already mentioned some of those already. Headaches, as one is planning for an event. There are many steps, and this can cause a lot of pressure and stress,
Yes,
and
a
that
lot
can
of
cause
plan
headaches.
a lot of planning.
A lot of planning.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of planning. And another one is neck and shoulder tension. In East Asian medicine, when our chi is upright and we're thinking about the future and we're focused on completing a certain task, you can even see kind of how my neck goes in. We're trying to make all sorts of decisions, and decisions can affect the upper back. Being focused on one thing for a long time can cause stiffness. GI issues, gastrointestinal issues. If someone is susceptible to IBS, they're susceptible to acid reflux, even the intensity of the emotions one can feel nauseated. Acupuncture can help with all of these things. And of course, anxiety and panic, that's palpitations, shortness of breath, there can even be dizziness. Acupuncture can help. Insomnia, there can be many sleepless nights thinking about the wedding. And there are points, and we're going to talk about a point in just a little bit that can be helpful for mood regulation and sleep. And then skin irritations and breakouts can happen. And I actually experienced this myself, and I have a funny story about that. And then there can be so much effort that one is putting into the day. There can be fatigue, almost like collapse, low energy. There with the highs, there also can be lows and depression. There can be changes in appetite. There can be mood swings. Acupuncture can help with all of these things, and they some people report their wedding as one of the most important days of their life. So it makes sense that the body would be stressed during this time.
Mhm.
And I wanted to get the word out about how acupuncture can be helpful during times of great stress. And as we've said it before, it's always easier to dig the well before you're thirsty. It's easier to treat one's susceptibility to migraines and reduce the intensity, frequency, and duration of migraines weeks, if not months before the wedding. If one's susceptible to GI disturbance, let's have one come in and start doing some points to support the digestion, maybe even herbs or talking about diet. But the bride and groom are preparing for this wonderful party, and they're thinking about their union and thinking about families coming together and thinking about the decorations and the order of events, all these things. How much are they caring for their body? And I absolutely love um, uh, weddings. I am romantic at heart. And to know that we have a medicine that can help one feel better. This is it might be the most important day, one of the most important days of their life. We want them to feel good. So know I said a lot, and let's just go through it and talk about all those things.
I think for me, it always starts with the emotions. When we talk about 5 elements and how they affect us, and rather than even 5 elements, it's the seasonal changes that our body goes through, but associated with those are emotions.
Mom, so sorry to interrupt. I want to just, you were mentioning the 5 elements, and I wanted to simply highlight that is a style, somewhat of a style of acupuncture, and it can be a philosophy of acupuncture, knowing that this is a medicine that is not just dozens of years old or hundreds of years old, but thousands of years old, and has been performed in many different countries. There are varying philosophies. Sorry to interrupt you, but you were talking about the 5 elements, wood, fire, earth, metal, water, and I wanted to make sure that, everyone was connected with what we were talking about.
Yeah, and that concept is throughout many different medicines and so on. And I just wanted to bring up the emotional component of that. For example, wood is associated with anger. We go to fire, we go to the summer, we go to the anxiety or the sadness. We come around a little bit into earth, and that's a little bit
Worry.
with worry
Yeah.
and also with boundaries. We go down into metal and we get into grief, and water is associated with fear. Just in mentioning those different emotions, that's what we're going through in a wedding. You're going through all of that. It's normal, it's natural. It's part of that process because there's going to be times that you'll feel great grief. Why would you feel grief at the happiest day of your life? You're leaving something, you're leaving a lifestyle, you may be leaving your family. There's all kinds of different ways. Why would you be
Well,
sad?
let's stay with that just for a moment because it's so rich, and there is that idea that one door closes, another door opens.
Open.
The lungs are about bringing in oxygen, letting go of carbon dioxide. So when we're talking about the metal element and grief, there's a lot of letting go and bringing in. And when the lungs are challenged, or according to the philosophy of East Asian medicine, when there's grief, this can affect the lungs. Yeah, and there's also a loss of identity. I was a single person, and
That's
now
right.
I'm going to be a married person. So there's significant, change and loss. I just wanted to take a moment on that, and then so we have metal. You wanna go to wood?
Well,
Or
well,
no, wood,
let,
fire, earth,
let's
metal, water.
let's
Let's
go
go
to let's go to
water. Yeah, okay, so water.
because that's associated with fear. And we're talking about the adrenals, the kidneys, the adrenals, that fatigue that comes in because we're pushing and pushing and pushing, with all the planning, all the different things that need to be organized to create this perfect time. Um,
A
so, so
and
again,
and the also the opposite. We didn't talk about the opposite with metal, which is, acknowledgement and I believe respect. So
mhm,
if one's wanting to acknowledge the family members, acknowledge their fiancé, it can just all that acknowledgement part can wear down the metal, and then the positive going to where we are with water, it's determination and will.
and
So
will.
it takes a certain amount of determination. Yes, we're gonna get married and we're gonna do this, and we're and the will to it also takes a lot of resources. Weddings can be expensive. So, in East Asian medicine, the water element is Jing, our essence, and a way of thinking about that in worldly terms might be like money. So, weddings can in some ways can be a very, Jing depleting event, and
which
when
which evokes fear
evokes fear. And what can it do for the body? It can cause low back pain
and fatigue. Yeah,
and fatigue and
right.
fatigue. Yeah, you talk about the adrenal glands and them being taxed, and in East Asian medicine, the kidney and the adrenal glands weren't really separated. So it was all like one thing. Moving from water to wood.
I just wanted to say one
Oh,
more
please.
thing is that when we get so fatigued, we get cranky. You know?
Right.
Again, those emotions are coming in short-tempered, maybe a little bit weepy, all those kinds of things. So, yes.
Yeah.
So from water, we go to wood, and wood is associated with anger. When people want to talk about this, I always mention that it's not so much anger as what is associated with the spring. So it's this little seed under frozen ground that has to be determined and pushed through the frozen ground because growing season may be short. So it's that kind of energy. It's that it doesn't necessarily mean that we're furious, that we're quote unquote angry. We're just that determined that this is going to happen this way.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's a great thing. We use the word wood, and I think about a tree
Yes.
because wood can be about vision, perspective. So you can climb a tree, and you can then begin to see what's around.
Different
Like you
perspective.
mentioned, the sprout or the upward direction. We might have a vision of what we want our wedding to look like, and we may be very rigid in that vision. And a healthy wood element, according to this philosophy of East Asian medicine, this is that we want to be flexible. We want to be like bamboo. So when the wind blows, when the stress happens, we're not like old, dried up wood where we crack and break.
Yeah.
This vision, planning, we can say more and more about these 5 elements. The job of the wood element is the general. So it's the leader, whether it's the bride to be to saying exactly how she wants things to be, or working with a wedding planner and in just what it's like to be under that leadership. This can be very taxing for the wood. Are we too rigid? Is our vision clear? Is our vision not in line with what other people want?
Mhm.
So very taxing. When the wood element is taxed, you can have clenching, can have upper back pain, headaches, migraines. So wood element.
Yeah. And I think that what you said about the structure, the is that when it doesn't go your way, we can be flexible like bamboo, look at the options and move with the wind. But if we don't have that capacity, that's where the real anger and rage can come in. And God, what does that do? That impacts the whole body from the head all the way down to the gut to losing sensation in our fingers and toes. So there's a lot that can happen with that particular emotion. I think we are at fire now, and fire can, because there's in Asian medicine there's two types of fire. There's kind of the low fire, and then the one we all love is the bright shiny fire. So there can be the emotion to that can be anxiety, can also be deep sadness. Again, when we're in that, we can be excited. That's fire. Fire is excitement. Go, "Oh, wow, this is really great." And when it's not great, it can push right into that anxiety, rapid heartbeat, feeling of confusion, the mind, the heart. And then the sadness can be there as well, is that low fire. It's like, oh, this is too much. I'm overwhelmed. And you drop down into that sadness, almost depression. I think we
Well,
talked
well,
about,
I wanted to say, and thank you for that. When we talk about fire, and we've been going through these quick, and we could say so much more about
yes,
all of them. We talked about uh, we talked about metal. It was the lungs. We talked about water. It was the kidneys. And we talked about wood. It was the liver. And these are just the yin organs. There's a corresponding yang or yang organ also. But when we talk about fire, we're talking about the heart. The whole wedding, most of the time, people are getting married because of love. So there's love. And this can be overwhelming, can be an overwhelming amount of love. And then there may also be, you talk about sadness. I'm wondering there can be a question around love. Is
Yeah,
this the right love for me? We've been through some things. We have a story. And so it can stress that fire element because we're maybe wanting to redefine love. Something that many couples might do is they may go into counseling before they get married, and
mhm.
they can talk about their relationship.
That's right, yeah.
So fire, it's that's a big one, and like you said, you get too much anxiety, too much fire, not gonna be able to sleep. Yeah, too much fire, maybe
Yep.
heart palpitations.
Yes.
Wedding, wow.
The last element I just want to mention is the earth element, and that very often is associated with worry. So we've got a lot of things that we're worrying about. When we worry, what's that going to affect? It's our gut. We're holding on in here. So we may lose our appetite. We may have pain in our stomach. We may have all kinds of GI issues coming up for us because again, we're holding on to that feeling. Worry is the band going to show up? Is this going to happen? Is the cake going to be delivered on time? There's a lot of moving parts to this. So that also associated with earth is something we commonly talk about as boundaries. And this is a big thing in with wedding planning is where are the boundaries? The moms are there and they want to be heard. The dads are there, they want to be heard. You and your partner are there and you want to listen to each other. That again, there's that boundary that, wait a minute, we've got, because it's just too much information. It's just overwhelming and will shut down the mind, the stomach, the system itself. So yeah, I think that when we think about all the emotions that come in during that wedding planning, is that this is something acupuncture really works at so well in modulating those emotions, toning them down a little bit. It's not that they shouldn't be there, not that they're bad or good or whatever, but that we can keep them like the bamboo is a great example, that we can keep flexibility, we can move with the day and the plan and so on. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I'm glad you did, and you're so right. It's acupuncture brings the body back to homeostasis, and we can target certain points for the stomach or muscles, the head. But I think that it's important that we know that it's regulating. You were also talking about many of these feelings being natural and that they're going to come up, and we don't want them to not come up. They're helpful,
Real helpful. Yes.
but when they become overwhelming, then they can be.
Hurtful.
Yeah, and with Earth, you were talking about boundaries. The Earth supports us. So
Mhm.
you wanna be a supportive partner, all right? And the Earth, you mentioned mothers, it is the Earth mother, so a lot of kind of feminine energy can come out around the Earth element. If we have so much worry, we might not feel grounded
Yeah.
and secure. The earth is about touch. One way that we can help regulate the earth aspect is by touch. So whether that be massage or there's some acupressure points. I'm going to talk about an acupressure point in just a moment. So I think that really feeling grounded during this time
Yes.
is very important. Our standard American diet is not supportive of the most healthy digestion as one is celebrating and there's all different parties and people want to gather. It can be challenging just for digestion. So that's challenging for the earth element. So another element, another part, I think that the wedding is so pervasive. It has the potential to affect every part of the body. And I have found professionally and personally nothing to be is profoundly regulating as an acupuncture treatment. That's why I like to share it. I was talking about a point that I wanted to suggest for acupressure. and it's called Neiguan pericardium 6 inner pass, and it's in between these two tendons. It's a point that's often used for morning sickness. With these acupuncture points, there can be several indications. So I think about when I think about the name inner pass, it's certainly it's a fire point, which is about love, but it is this wedding. There's a lot of inward work that one does during the wedding, and so I think that being able to feel calm and relaxed as one prepares for that, doing Neiguan. I wanted to we talked about skin irritation, and I wanted to share with you when I was getting married a few weeks before I got married. I remember there was a little rash that came up here. I had never experienced that kind of rash before. It was along the yang metal element and the yin metal element, and it occurred, and then I looked up this point, and this point has several names, but one of the names of this point is called joining of the valley. What was happening? I was first of all, skin irritation, any skin issue, it can be a metal thing. This was happening on this joining of the valley on, 2 metal meridians, and the joining of the valley is could be think about joining of yin and yang, husband and wife. So
Yes.
I was incredibly entertained by the feedback that the body was giving me. And that's what I think is important is that it's not good or bad. We have a body
Yes.
and it's giving us information. So we can be tempted to ignore it because I don't have time for upset stomach, acid reflux. I've got to prepare for this wedding. But when we give ourselves a moment to care for our body, it gives back to us
Just a slight pause.
a slight pause.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that we have covered what the stress of the wedding can do according to the 5 elements. We have an acupressure point that one can do, a little personal story. Do you have a story about your weddings or anything that you'd like to share about what that was like for you? A different time?
Different time. And again, every person is going to experience things very differently. I think that overall, we can look at you can look at recognizing that we're going through all kinds of emotions and to just accept it, to be at peace with it and say, yeah, okay, this is how I feel today, not fight with it. I think that's where we really get into real problems is we either ignore it and it continues to fester, or we just we just don't do anything at all, or we react to it with we're talking about anger and rage and bitterness or isolating and not talking. So I think it's a time for really, when we're in this planning phase, I think it's a great time to really start talking to your partner
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
in addition to everything else,
Yeah.
communication.
I even thought, what would it be like to have an acupuncturist at the wedding, right before the wedding, and giving some auricular acupuncture
Yes.
to the bridesmaids and the bride or the groomsmen and the groom, and I thought that would be really cool. So acupuncture can play a role in many parts of our life, and getting married for many people is a significant moment, and sometimes we need support in ways that uh, we can predict, and sometimes we might need to be a little bit more creative or nuanced with how we can support ourselves. And that's why I wanted to get the word out about acupuncture, how it can be helpful for wedding planning, and maybe even on a wedding day, because I will accept if a invitation. What a great celebration to see
That's right.
people get together, let each other know how much they matter to each other, and to create a new adventure and journey in their life. That's a wonderful thing to witness.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. Okay. We are Metro Acupuncture in Atlanta, Georgia, and we look forward to talking with you next time.
Thank you for your listening.
Thank you.